Oh, all right. We're recording now. Everybody's still filtering in for those of you joining us on the internet. But as they've just said, the boom mics here are very sensitive, so who knows? Maybe you'll be overhearing some good conference gossip. For those of you who couldn't attend in person, be able to participate. So we wanted to bring the full conference experience to you, even if you're participating virtually. All right. All right, so here we go. Hey, everybody. My name is Mike Murphy, and I am a clinical law professor at Duke University, but I had the pleasure of being a clinical law professor here at Penn up until January. I was here for 4.5 years. So it is an absolute treat and a pleasure to be back here talking in front of people. This is really a wonderful, really treat for me, and I just wanted to thank all the conference organizers for accepting my proposal. Everybody come on in. So you know on the internet, there's still more people filtering in. You'll be overhearing their conversations as they come in too. So, I also have the pleasure of following the keynote, which is a position of honor, but also a sacrificial position. So I will do my best here. But so I just wanted to point out, right, here's my introduction slide, and here's my total thirsty presentation title, right? What this is all about teaching synchronous communication in today's environment, right? And it's an update on my valiant and heartbreaking efforts to convince law clinic students to at least try to talk to a human being. Not that I'm frustrated or anything. So, and this man here on the screen is Martin Cooper. Anybody know what Martin Cooper did? There's a hint. It's in the photo.
He invented the cell phone.
He invented the cell phone. Yeah. So that's why he's surrounded by cell phones, and he's quite the character, as you can see. So we have him to blame/thank for all of this. So all right. So first, I'll start off with there we go. A video. So here it is. Hopefully this all works in the screen share for the audio. So that video was from 2008. It was from 1988. But it's indicative of kind of how far that we've come certainly in my lifetime and in some of your lifetimes, but even in some of the lifetimes of our students, right? And the problem that I have is that I'm a clinical law professor and I teach students how to solve problems, right? It does not matter if the problem is a legal problem or a business problem. We solve problems for our clients, right? Our clinic provides transactional legal services to small businesses and entrepreneurs. They don't care if it's a problem that is solvable by a statute or solvable by some other kind of solution. So I tell the students, we've got to solve this problem and we've got to use every resource available, no matter what that resource is. And oftentimes, right, that resource is having a conversation with someone in real time, right? Actually having a synchronous conversation with someone. And as you can see, right, we've had a little bit of difficulty with that in the last few years, right? In a couple years ago, I was teaching class like this, all the way on Zoom. Those are Penn Law students right there. But then after that, I was teaching class in a classroom not far from here, where everybody's wearing masks. So that was a year or two too. And then this last semester, when I'm down at Duke, look, we're all in a room by ourselves talking, and it's great. But that's the challenge, is that not only are we facing sort of changing technology, but we're facing a changing environment, right? And so what I have found is that each year it seems to be more and more and more difficult to teach the idea that a professional phone call or even dropping by and talking to a human being synchronously is not necessarily a disappearing skill, but just one that students seem to struggle with more and more and more and more, right? And I think technology and environment make that more difficult, right? Because humans really are the greatest resources. And this is especially salient when we have what we call sort of our first step issue. And what that means is that a student is a transactional attorney for the first time, has to find out something about a business, has to find out something about a regulation, has to find out something about a problem, right? And they just don't know where to start. And so I viscerally remember about 4 years ago, downstairs in the law library here, seeing one of my students just like going over and over again in Bloomberg looking for different kinds of forms, and I could see that they were kind of frustrated. And they were sitting 10 feet away from a desk where a human being who was just chilling, enjoying, the internet, couldn't help them. And I watched this for like a little bit too long because I didn't really know if I should intervene to bridge the gap or not. And so we thought, really, how do we bridge this first step issue? How do we get these students really starting on a research path or finding the right resource? Because it's a really important skill for lawyers, right? We have an ethical obligation to use resources efficiently and effectively. And if students are flailing around and being inefficient, not only are they bad at their jobs, but can be borderline or maybe even unethical. So I thought, okay, right, I've got this problem, right? I have technology that's making it so easy to do literally everything, right? From ordering food to booking flights to finding information. And that's making it harder and harder for students to realize that maybe you just ask a human being who knows. And so, through the lens of trying to figure out how to get students handling first step research problems better, I thought, okay, right, I have to overcome this incredible weird cultural phenomenon, which is that an unsolicited phone call basically means one of two things, right? Someone is trying to sell you an extended car warranty, or there is a dire emergency requiring your immediate attention, right? And so students think that, and they think, well, I just don't really want to bother someone, right, who is a resource and can be really helpful to me with either an emergency or an extended car warranty. So the solution, right, is to sort of work within the same environment. That's why I didn't change any of the pictures here. It's really, how do I integrate the law school library with our transactional clinic, right? How do I get students to talk to librarians in a way that really gets them practice with an incredibly friendly human resource who's very helpful, in the hopes that they'll think to pick up the phone as opposed to just typing and typing and typing and typing and typing forever and ever. I wanted to make students really comfortable describing issues to real human beings synchronously. Lots and lots of the students that I teach at Duke and certainly here at Penn struggle mightily with imposter syndrome. And it's a very real phenomenon, not to be very scared to ask for help because you think it makes you look dumb. And that ends up, I think, costing a whole lot of time and energy for students. So I wanted to make them comfortable, and I thought this was a great environment to spend some energy of trying to facilitate these conversations. Because I wanted students to make sure they knew all of their resources moving forward, right? Just like their entrepreneur clients. We don't, as I like to say in our clinics, right, in my transactional clinics, we don't just train people to advise startups and entrepreneurs. We train students to be entrepreneurs. Lawyering is an increasingly entrepreneurial profession. So I wanted them to understand they have to use all the resources that are available to them. And especially since most of them are going to large law firms, then having a librarian around is certainly a resource. So we did a couple things, right? And I apologize for the teensy tiny text, but I thought I would do some screen grabs and some emails. In the entrepreneurship legal clinic here at Penn that I taught, right? We had librarians come in and teach us a seminar module on what we called getting started, right? Which was basically, you have an idea, you have a case. How do you get started on your case, right? How do you find out this information about your clients? So they went in and taught like about half a class, and I thought this is going to be great, right? They're going to teach this class. Students are going to say, this is awesome. We did a mock research exercise, and it's totally going to work. Students are going to see the value in that, and they're going to work with the librarians, and we're all done, right? We're all set. And then I said, maybe we'll have weekly office hours, right? We'll have library staff, librarians come down to the clinic and hang out, right? And students will be in, of course, the students will be in in the clinic working, and then they will have a question and they will walk over to the librarian and have that conversation. So none of that worked, right? So that didn't work at all. So the students enjoyed the class and did fine on the assignment, and then the weekly office hours were our fantastic library staff hanging out with us and chatting and not really helping the students. So when that didn't work, I tried a different tack, right? We did a voluntary kickoff meeting where we're like, okay, look, here are dates and times in which staff is available. Please go talk to them, and they will talk with you about what they can provide, and then, hey, bring a question or problem to them. That would be great, right? So we threw that out there for the students. Nope. So we had a mandatory kickoff where we said, okay, you have to go talk. 15 minutes, just go meet with them. And so that really ended up working a little bit better, right? Because students actually showed up in the meeting, engaged with the meeting, realized that there was value in these kinds of conversations, started to create and build that relationship. And so I wanted to keep it going by, and this is what's up here, the librarians and here at Penn would draft a weekly email that just had like, here are some resources you should try, right? Nothing crazy, but I come from a former career in digital marketing, and I'm fully aware that like the occasional reminder that you exist is really, really good. And so I thought like that would be really helpful, and it ended up being very helpful, and included the office hours in there too. You'll also note, if you can see, that the office hours we shifted them to Zoom, right? So we said, look, no one's really coming into the clinic to work too much anyway. But if we have the office hours on Zoom, we're sort of meeting students where they are, right? They prefer that method of communication to some extent. And so that way, it's a little bit less intrusive for everybody to have to go somewhere or wherever. So that worked out pretty well. And I think by the end of this program, we were having pretty good uptake where most of our students were working with library staff and creating a relationship in which they were getting answers through conversations, which was great, and that's the Zoom office hours. Yeah, so at Duke, right, I've been working to kind of implement the same system, and it's been going okay, right? The students have mandatory meetings with faculty, right, with me, and I basically just tell them to go talk to librarians and library staff, right? The students will ask me a question about how to get started on work, and I'll say, look, if I know the answer, and believe me, that's a hypothetical sometimes, I say, you know who you should really talk to, and then I say, to students, sometimes I will give a suggestion, sometimes I will give something that's more than a suggestion, and I'll let you know, and I'll say, this is a little more than a suggestion. You should go to the library and ask them, right? And our library at Duke, of course, has great lists of resources, and the librarians there are great with showing students where to go and how to find stuff. The other thing I'll do to students is I'll say, go talk to staff, right, to library staff, and let's talk about it next week, right? So I do the sort of thing that I always hated back when I was working in private practice, which was like, give a gentle suggestion with a deadline, right? Like how about you go talk, how about we talk about this next week, won't that be nice? And then the other thing that I'll do, right, is because I want to transition students into of course, like using this amazing technology of the telephone, or even using Zoom, right, to communicate synchronously, not just, of course, with librarians, is I'll say, hey, if there's another information gatekeeper out there, there's a city official, there's an IRS person, let's role play a conversation in which, you ask me what you need, and I'll, answer as best as I can. And that can be helpful too, right? But it's something that we do a lot in clinic when I can tell students are a little apprehensive about a conversation. And so I'll do that too. And plus I get to play like a Philadelphia city official or official. And as someone who has owned a house in Philadelphia now for about 9 years, that's super fun for me. And then of course I encourage in-person meetings with everyone to the extent, of course, that students are comfortable and able to do that, right? But I'll say, look, to the extent that you can actually go by a place and talk to a person in person, you should. And that's a little bit selfish on my end, because part of what my responsibility is to teach students not just how to think like a lawyer and not just how to do lawyer work, but how to be a lawyer in a setting, how to walk up to someone, introduce yourself as a lawyer, and then assume that professional role in a synchronous conversation, not in their house, not in their kitchen, but actually right here. And so trying to give them more and more practice with that is super important, and it's kind of hard to do these days. So looking ahead, I am contractually obligated, of course, to mention AI, and yeah, AI is going to mess this up. Are you kidding? Like, of course it is, right? Like, why? Like, it's just going to make it even easier to try to type things into a terminal and receive an answer as opposed to talking to a human being, right? And so it is definitely going to mess this up, right? And also, right, it doesn't help that social media is a wonderful way we have found in the small business entrepreneurial world to get an answer out of a regular, especially more city and local and state regulators and other kinds of agencies, is to send them a direct message on Twitter. You will actually get an answer way faster than trying to call them on the telephone looking right at you, Philadelphia Water Department. And so, so that's tricky too, right? Because sometimes actually asynchronous communication isn't actually as efficient. But, right, there's going to be no one method that works all the time, so I want students to try to use all the different kinds of methods, right? Ultimately, it's not so much the shotgun approach, it's really just trying to figure out what works in each situation. And human beings will still be relevant that way, probably, right? Like, I really truly think that synchronous communication is still here to stay. And some of these awesome communicative tools, hello Zoom people, that we've been using for the last couple of years are only going to help. But that's the update on my valiant and heartbreaking efforts. I appreciate your time. I look forward to questions at the end of all these awesome sessions.
Hold on, I better read my email. Hold on.
All right.
Wait, it's important. That is not a mouse. This is an email. It's a slideshow. Let's have this. Slideshow would be that way. First of all, let's minimize you because that's just going to be distracting. Start the slideshow from the beginning. Email. So much fun. Yeah, who here spends way too much time in email? Oh, come on. Yeah. I'm Debbie Ginsberg. I am the Faculty Services Manager at Harvard, and I've got some issues with email. There's too much of it. So many emails a day, only a few of which are actually emails I need to deal with, considering all the percentages. I only have so much time to deal with them, and I gotta prioritize what's important. Like, is the email from the New York Times telling me there's a new Wordle and I should play that? Is that important, or maybe I should do something else? And if I don't get my email under control, I can miss important information. Like yesterday when I was asking someone, oh, did you get back to me? And they're like, yeah, didn't you see my email? Oh. Okay. So, let's get this back in control. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my methods. I'm going to give you some ideas. There's no one size fits all. And sort of talk about how AI might change everything, because I just thought about that while Pablo was talking, but right now, does anyone have AI doing their email? Because I still am in Outlook. And I went from Gmail to Outlook, and that made me sad. So what do? Every day, I look at my email, and I'm too tired to actually do anything. So first thing, I open my email, and I look at it and go, yep, there's some stuff here. And I start throwing things into the archive. I don't need to deal with this, I don't need to deal with this. I can respond to this right now and get it out of the way. And here's something I can delegate, and it's becomes someone else's problem. It happens when you're the manager, you can do that. And sometimes I'll schedule it by throwing it to my to-do list and dealing with it later. And then I have no email, or at least none in my inbox, and I can actually go do work. I've woken up, I've had my caffeine, and my email's clean. It's all pristine, and I love it. So, typical day. All right, that one needs a response, and that's a task, and here's a bunch of stuff from the people that send me my prescriptions, and that can just go away. And there's something I need to do later, and that's something someone else can do, and now we're done. All clean. So, how do we get from there from having email in control of me to having at least some control over the email? First, of course, I want to set some goals for myself, and then I might want to know what I'm getting in my email that maybe I want to deal with elsewhere. So goals for me were, I wanted inbox 0, because that was going to give me more control. For other people, they may want to just tag everything and have everything, nicely presented, or they may want something else. So for whatever it is that works for you, you're going to want to think about what are your goals for your email, and what do you want to do about it? So we're starting to introduce the idea that we are controlling email, not us. We're being intentional about it. So how do I do this? Unsubscribe, one of my best friends. It takes a while, but it does get rid of a lot of it. Tags and rules. So you may have noticed I had a lot of different folders. That's because anything that comes in that I don't want in my inbox, because I don't want a lot of things that have nothing to do with my day-to-day work in my inbox, I throw them elsewhere so they're not there taking up my mental space. And other things, I might use a different tool to respond rather than email. So for example, AOL, if you still have relatives in AOL, I was working on a relative's email, and they have this nice unsubscribe tool. How nice. Let's get rid of a lot of stuff quickly. So unsubscribing was really quickly helped me clean up that email. I'm dealing with a family member who passed away, and there's too much email that was irrelevant. I couldn't tell what was coming in. Unsubscribe, unsubscribe. This was very useful. I also then throw information that I was missing. We went from everyone answering different tickets to the managers assigning tickets, and I was missing tickets that were coming into my email box. So I threw them aside into their own folder, so I never missed them, and I always was able to respond to them. But they also weren't taking up mental space by coming into my inbox right away, so I could say, this is ticket time, this is other work time, and I didn't have to do it all at the same time. So there go the tickets. And also, I started one of those emails like, can you meet at this time? Can you meet at that? No. All right, we've established enough information that I went from this email to directly scheduling it in my calendar. The email was not the right tool for this. Calendar was, because at that point, that was going to go to their email anyway, and I didn't have to worry about it. The end. There are other tools you can use. In my Gmail at home, I use SaneMe and Unroll.me, SaneBox, Sane later and Unroll.me. SaneBox is starting to introduce the idea of something vaguely like AI that's looking at all the stuff I get in my home email and saying, you know what, a lot of this stuff looks like maybe you don't want to see it right away. So there'll be email that comes in during the day, and there's some I want to pay attention to, like stuff that might come from the kids' school that I need to respond to. And there's other stuff that can wait to the end of the day, and Sane later will say, is this stuff you really wanted to deal with? This looks like a bunch of newsletters that you probably don't want. And here's some other stuff. And I go, yeah, that is something I want to see. Bring it back. Or that is not something I wanted to see. So it's sort of like an unsubscribed light. So here, like, oh yeah, I want to see this thing from FedEx. I can move it once to my inbox because I don't want everything from FedEx, but I want to make sure I'm dealing with that one. Move it to my inbox. Unroll.me, I used to say, okay, here's some things like, there could be a coupon from Michael's, Pensie's might be having a sale. Throw that into an email that I can look at once a day and otherwise not be rid of it. So things I kind of care about, but not enough that I really want to pay huge amounts of attention to. Then there's set and forget. In Gmail, I use Active Inbox to say, all right, here's a bunch of mails that came in. This is when I want to deal with them. Back when I was using Gmail for work, I would also do project management with those emails in a project management tool called Asana. In Outlook land, I just use the regular to-do app, the regular to-do software. And all I have to do is mark something. So someone said, hey, you want to check this thing out on Lex Machina? Yes, I do. And it gets into my flagged email, and then it gets into my daily stuff, and it's great. The other thing is that about this Microsoft thing is it seems to be tied into other tools that may be questionable in terms of their privacy, but are still useful. So has anyone ever woken up at 2 in the morning and forgot that there was something they needed to do? So I just go, Alexa, remind me to do, or not remind me, Alexa, put this on my to-do list. And it winds up on the to-do list. There's some back-end setup I had to do it, but it works and it gets right there. So it's like, hey, I forgot to, fill this medication requirement, so let me do that, and it's done. So at least I have all this in one place. And also in to-do, I can decide, this is the stuff I'm going to do today, and this is the stuff I'm going to do some other time. Even things that might come up once a year. So, oh yeah, today is the day I need to figure out, do I need to renew my parking? Comes up once a year, and it's there, and I don't have to worry about it. No email reminders, it's right there in the space where I am working. So the other thing is you want information in the space where you're going to do the work. So set and forget. So then you have the time that you want to be working, and you want to be in control of your time. So do you all need to have your email open all the time? Can you close it? So that's one other thing. Or if you're like me, how many people, the information you need is in your email? So pause your inbox. Gmail, you can do that automatically. I'm going to show you one way to do that in Outlook. The other thing is schedule responses. So how many people wake up and like, you can't have sent that at 3 in the morning? You can't have done that. You don't have to. So sometimes I'll be like, even if I'm sending something weird, I'll just have this sent at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning so it doesn't bug anybody. Or I'm sending something to someone who's on vacation. No reason to fill up their inbox while they're on vacation. I want to make sure it gets out, but I can schedule it so it gets out when they get back. And so it's not sitting there filling up their inbox causing problems. And that can be done in email and in Outlook and Gmail. So, and there's a tool called Boomerang. There are a bunch of tools like this. This is one example. It's in Gmail and it's in Outlook. And in Outlook, it does the scheduler, but Outlook has its own scheduler. If you click send, there's a little drop down and you can schedule a time in Outlook. You can have it return the message to the inbox. I get that in Gmail, but I can't remember if that's a Gmail thing or an active inbox thing that automatically says either this person hasn't responded to you in a certain number of days or you forgot to respond to this person in a certain number of days. That can be helpful. But the big thing it has is inbox pause. And you can even have an email sent out, I'm in inbox pause and I'm not answering your email right now. Or you can just have it pause and it can be paused for hours that you just don't get email and you can get work done. And then there's you time. So, you know, you're on vacation, you're like, oh gosh, do I have to deal with that? No, you can just close your email. You can get rid of the app. People, that's actually been suggested at my work. Just don't have your Slack app. Don't have your Outlook app. Get rid of it while you're on vacation. This is your time. Important thing with dealing with any communications, set boundaries. When are you going to do this? When are you not going to do this? So, hello. How did I do that? So excited.
Pause your email.
Pause the email. Pause all this. So all of this is about setting boundaries. Even with scheduling, inbox, and all of this is you being in control of the communication. And also then think about where we should talk. So, you know, Michael just told us about like, you can do things like pick up the phone. What is it you're trying to accomplish? So, you know, if I've got a quick question, I might put it in Slack, but other things are more important through email or, God forbid, the phone. So, you know, email is not the appropriate tool for every single bit of communication. It may feel like that after 20 years, but it's not. So, think about what it is you're using and what you might use it for. So instant message, I know some people really don't like it, but I really like it for quick questions, quick responses. Email, great for complicated questions, or if I just need to push out a lot of information to lots of people. Calling, if I need a quick response, yes, like I just need to know, is the answer to this yes or no? Are you coming or not? I just need to know something right now. Or back and forth conversation or clarification. You said this in the email, I don't get it. Meetings, great for brainstorming, on you know, other things that like, sometimes they'll have this back and forth going on in email, like, okay, we all just need to get together and decide what we're going to do, because at this point, I've completely lost the thread of the email. So before it becomes that, this is when the email could have been a meeting. Rather than spending 6 more emails to do it, we can have a quick 5-minute meeting on Zoom and deal with it. And then, of course, there's times when no communication, anything that can wait, or you're about to respond emotionally. In a way that's not going to be conducive to what you want to do. Not that emotional responses don't have their place, but you want to be careful with them. But you also want to think about the wrong tool. So too many times, and I've done this too, hey, the new policy for this is X, and I'll throw it into Slack, and not remember to put it in a place where anyone would remember to look at it later. And someone's like, when did this policy change? Right, because I need to put it in the actual policy document so you can see it. Not great for long conversations. Email, those long threads, try to avoid them. Calls, I don't like it if I get something like, you know, 8 in the morning, because I'm not even there, from someone who's like trying to finish up their day. We may not be in the same mental space. Or my other favorite, hi, here is a big information dump on the phone. Please don't do that. I also mentioned language barriers, but of course there's tools that are helping with that, so hopefully that will not be as big of an issue. Meetings without an agenda, of course, are terrible, or no accountability. And of course, there's times when you have to communicate. I know there's times where it's difficult. You have to say something really difficult to somebody. and you may be procrastinating, but it still has to happen, and there's times we forget. And definitely emergencies too, because you don't want to leave anyone in the dark. But the idea again is to think of which tool is right for me right now. So, some things you don't need to do. I've stopped, and it's really hard for me to do this, I've stopped saying just thank you to everything. Because now that's another email that has appeared. Hopefully they understand I'm thankful for them. I've already said thank you in advance. We can do that. Avoid follow-ups. This is another thing that we've been working on in our library is, let's say I have something and I need to, it's not for me, it's actually for IT. And in the former days, what I would do is like check in with IT and make sure it was done and keep following up. No, it's IT's problem. Forward and forget. Someone else's problem to deal with, not yours. So, that's contributed to the problem. And of course, remove people from threads as needed, because has anyone been in a thread like, this is not for me anymore? Take me out of this. So, some things you can do. But you can be the solution. I keep telling the words intentional. And I think this is what Michael wants his students to really be thinking about is, what is the right tool for the thing that I'm doing now? I need to talk to a city official. Do I call them? Do I make an appointment with their assistant? Do I drop in? Do I email them? What do I do? I can't ask ChatGPT. It's not going to help me. I'm going to have to think of someone else to get it. Sometimes you can ask, what kind of communication do you prefer? Sometimes that's appropriate, sometimes it's not, but it can overcome some barriers. And you use the tools, not the tools use you. So hopefully you've got some ideas of how you can take control of the tools. Will AI change this in the future? Maybe. I've seen some aspects that maybe come from Office, but it's not anything that's coming to a lot of us right away, particularly if anyone have institutions that are going to take a little while to implement things on your whole email system. You're going to be in the old school way for quite some time, at least at work. So continue to use these systems until AI really can just become my little assistant and clean everything up and tell me if I should call and tell me if this is a good time to drop in. I'm going to have to be in control. You're going to have to be in control. And so I hope you are ready to stop answering emails just like that and start taking good vacations. Questions after Ashley presents.
Everybody. Just gonna get myself set up here. There you go.
Got to check my emails.
Now you guys are gonna see the whole presentation. Sorry about that. As you can see, we've got a lot to go over. Hi everybody, I'm Ashley Matthews. I'm a reference and instructional services librarian at GMU Law Library in Arlington, Virginia, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And I'm going to talk to you guys about technology tools that will help you create videos for your flipped legal research classes. Does anybody in here create legal research videos, either for your institution or for students, for other people? Okay, some of you may just want to create educational content and have it be easily shareable, so this will be helpful for you as well. And it's a lot to go through, so let's get into it. So basically, when you're looking at video production, and just to let you guys know, in addition to being a librarian, I have a background, law librarian, I have a background in broadcast journalism and digital communications and marketing. So that's where sort of a lot of the love of this topic comes from. So when you're thinking about putting together a video, there's a lot of different components that you'll have to think about. The actual presentation or the lecture itself, any types of graphics and animation, how you're gonna screen record or capture what you're doing on your device so other people can see what you're doing. Virtual whiteboards, which is basically like this actual physical whiteboard behind me, but how to do that digitally. Then editing everything together, putting together audio and the video and all the other components. Any types of formative assessments, quizzes, things of that nature. Accessibility, how different people will access what you're doing, disabled people, and just anybody using a digital device, different types of devices. Where you're going to host and store that video, mobile apps that could be helpful to you, some examples for inspiration, and some hardware that you might need. So there's a lot of different things that you'll have to think about when you're putting together videos. All right, so let's jump into presentation tools. Now, I tried to focus on free online tools because your institution might have a subscription service to like Camtasia or Echo 360, so that might be familiar to you. Those are expensive, right? So if you're doing this on your own or you're doing this with a little budget, you could still create the same or actually even better quality videos. There's a reason why a lot of our students run to YouTube and don't actually listen to us. It's because they're actually creating engaging content on YouTube. Right? So Canva video, I actually used Canva for this presentation. I use Canva for all of my video editing. I love it. I don't care that we have a Camtasia or Echo 360 subscription. They're clunky and I hate them. So I use Canva video. It's really easy to use. They have a video and audio library. You can seamlessly integrate all of your production on this one site. It's also, they have like TikTok, Instagram story templates, so if you hate TikTok or Instagram, you can just pull a template up and it'll create a video right there for you. It also has a library of fonts, designs, animations. If you get the pro account, it's really, I think it's like $12 a month. Most of these things, they are upgradable to a couple of dollars a month, but none of them are going to be as expensive as the institution subscription-based things. So that's Canva video. Then there's also Prezi Video. I don't use Prezi Video because I tend to get shy with content. I don't want them to hate me if they get confused. So I tend to just put the content first and not show my face. But if you are a person who likes to show your face, and statistics show that showing your face is more engaging, then Prezi Video allows you to present your material right next to the content and engage with it. Have you guys ever seen those YouTube videos where they're like, click here or do things like that? You can basically do that same thing with Prezi Video. It's available as a desktop app, so you can download it there. You can also import your existing PowerPoint and Google Slides, anything you need. They also have a graphics library as well, so it's kind of a one-stop shop. All right, so there's also iMovie, things that are available on your actual devices. I use iMovie a lot as well, just in case I have some heavy editing to do. And there's also Final Cut Pro if you're really good at that. You can always use those things. But Canva Video and Prezi Video are great online tools that are mostly free. All right, so let's talk about graphics and animation. You want to jazz up your video? This is a great way to do it. VistaCreate is a free online graphic design tool. They have a huge template library. They've also got image blur and background remover. You can also edit your videos here and trim them, but it's really helpful for shorter clip videos. And that's a whole nother session on whether we should make legal research more digestible by putting it in shorter clips. I'm a fan of that. So if there's any type of way that you can make it easier for them to understand, maybe a 2-minute, 3-minute video that you can post on a LibGuide or something, that's really helpful. There's also something called GIMP. Have you guys ever heard of GIMP before? All right, so it's mostly a drawing program. It's a little intense, but if you're happy with hand painting and drawing and you're comfortable with tech, then you could use GIMP. I don't use it. There's just so many other things that are like way easier to use, like Canva, like Prezi Video, even PowerPoint has graphics and animation. But if you want to go crazy, you could use something like that. They've got a huge library, lots of tutorials, and a video editor on the site as well. All right, so if you're looking for stock images, you can always go to like Adobe Stock or Pixabay or something like that, and you should try to be more inclusive with your stock images if you can. Disabled in here is one example. They've got growing categories of Black, POC folks who are disabled doing various things. It's not the largest library, but sometimes, you want to throw some support to small efforts like this. But you can also just literally search for disability in any stock image creator that you can find. So that's just something to be cognizant of, that your audience is going to be diverse, so you want your material to reflect your audience, all right? So you can also shoot your own B-roll. It was really hard for me to explain to students who don't pick up books at all that that some of it's color-coded or what it looks like. So go into your library or your institution, take your smartphone and actually shoot your own B-roll. Try to shoot it horizontally unless you're shooting for TikTok or something. And honestly, most smartphones will do the job. If you want, you can invest in a tripod or set up a static shot. That's kind of tricky to do. But that's if your hands are shaky or anything like that. And then you just upload the media into your presentation or straight into the video editor. And this really helps you show off unique features. So don't be scared to shoot your own B-roll. If that's something, if students want to be included in it, you could do something like that. So just get creative. All right. So let's talk about screen recording. So screen recording is something that a lot of us do. It's probably the easiest way to deliver a super short lesson. I use QuickTime Player. There's been talk that it hasn't been updated and it does get a little buggy, and maybe I use it so much because I am just used to it and it's already on my Mac. So if you have some type of screen capture device that's already there, you can use that. I like it because you can export clips very easily to your desktop, and then I can quickly relabel them and organize them and upload them into a video editor. And you can add graphics and animation to focus user attention. Some of them, like Screencastify and ScreenPal, actually already include little, like where your cursor goes, it'll turn red, which I think you can see here. I think it should do it when I move the cursor on this little video. Yeah, so the cursor's red on here, so you can kind of see it a little bit better. ScreenPal used to be Screencast-O-Matic, and they changed their name to ScreenPal now because they said that Screencast-O-Matic was too long and confusing for people. So these are just basically, the free plans. You can record up to like 10 videos. If you upgrade it, you can have unlimited storage of your screen captures. You could just always delete them and then store them on your own device and keep that free trial going that way. You can also export things as GIFs. GIF or GIF? Who is it? You can export it. Yeah, you can export it and you can then upload it to social media. You can upload it to different places, to a LibGuide, things like that. And like I said, I think the shorter the better, especially because sometimes it can get a little dizzying to find the cursor and whatnot. And this also works best with audio, so you can explain what it is you're doing. A lot of these have the ability to record audio at the same time. That's something that QuickTime doesn't really allow. They have a separate one for audio recording and a separate one for movie recording. But these free things actually offer audio and screen recording at the same time. All right, so you can also use document cameras, and these are really awesome. If you follow any sort of arts and crafts accounts on YouTube, and they have, you can basically see everything that they're doing as they're drawing and they're writing. They're using fancy document cameras, and this is basically what it looks like. This is like a small, lightweight sort of document camera, but then they have cameras that are mounted from the ceiling so you can see everything you're doing. There's a lot of them on the market. I have tagged one here. It's available on the CaliCon website, this whole presentation, in case it's going really fast. Only thing with these, make sure you have an external light source, because when you upload it into your video, it might be a little dark. I just use a desk lamp light, just a little desk lamp, and just shine it right on your material. This is awesome if you are good at drawing, you want to illustrate a case, or you want to illustrate a really complex concept. In legal research, this doesn't come up a lot because a lot of our materials are so old and antiquated, and it's all online on Westlaw and Lexis. But if you have something that you want to write out, or if you want to explain a case more clearly, you can use document cameras. And you can open up real-life books and show them on the document camera, and then include it in your video that way. All right, so now let's talk about virtual whiteboards. Similar to the document camera, but this one, if you're really, really bad at drawing, then there's a site called VideoScribe that will actually write things out and draw for you. I don't think it's AI generated, and there are presentation makers that are based in AI. I'm not going to talk about those because I don't think they're that great. We all know about the effects of that. We're probably going to talk about it a lot this week. But I make my own videos with my own brain. But you can tell VideoScribe what you want, and then it'll draw it out for you. There's lots of quick start whiteboards. It's really, like I said, it's great if you're not comfortable. There are paid subscriptions only, but they've got a pretty nice free trial period there where you can just create what you need, plan it out, and then go into VideoScribe, with the free trial, get what you need, and then download it, so you'll always have it, and then get out of there before they charge you for the money. All right, and you can use it on your desktop and your browser. There's also something called Limnu, and it's got affordable pricing. All of these are similar to like Microsoft Office whiteboard. So if you've already got Microsoft Office, then just do a screen record of you on the whiteboard, and it's basically the same thing. Also Windows Paint, you can do the same thing on Windows Paint. Smooth Draw, which is what the folks at Khan Academy, they're the folks who really pioneered online educational videos. They use Smooth Draw. There's another one called Lucid Spark. This is more basic than VideoScribe. VideoScribe overwhelmed me with its features. I really didn't have a need for that robust of a whiteboard. So this is a little simpler, and it could also be used for flow charting. If folks don't understand legislative history and you can't find a really good template online, then you could explain sort of like federal legislative history using a flow chart and a whiteboard. And it's available for use live streaming or in online meetings, and they've also got a 7-day free trial. All right, so now we're gonna talk about actually putting it all together and editing your video. So, like I said, I use iMovie. You could use Final Cut Pro, things like that. But there's also Video Proc Blogger. This has basic editing features. They've got a font library, and they've got in-depth tutorials. They also, what I think is great, is that they have an active Facebook group, and they all, people post their videos, so you can get inspiration and see ideas for how you could edit your video there. There's also CapCut, which is really popular. CapCut is free online, great for social media clips. You can automatically generate subtitles, which is awesome. You can convert text files into voiceovers. You can also put filters, effects, text overlays, sound effects. This is really awesome for Generation Z because that's how they consume content. They don't really look at a lot of static content. Their content is, it's got different things happening. So you want to meet them where they're at, right, and engage with them that way. It's available for use as a mobile app or on the browser. All right, so there's also something called DaVinci Resolve. Anybody in here familiar with DaVinci Resolve? It's used by a lot of professionals, a lot of pros, but they do have a free version. So if you're comfortable with editing and you're ready to take it sort of to the next level, then you could create some really, really slick videos using DaVinci Resolve. Similar to iMovie, you're basically going to create and edit multiple projects, similar to Adobe Premiere Pro, which some of you guys might be used to. It includes transitions, effects, other editorial features. Not a lot of people in here probably care about this, but I think a lot of editors love it because of its color features. So if the color page is great for color correction and things like that, and there's a ton of tutorials available online. So if you ever get lost, it's all there. There's also Audacity for online audio editing. So if you've got a Mac or something like that, you could use GarageBand. But Audacity is free online, and I think it's actually a lot better than GarageBand in some kind of ways. GarageBand is more robust, but that's for actual people who are like music producers, and I'm just trying to do like a 15-minute video or a 10-minute video. So Audacity is great. You can record live audio, edit multiple tracks, very easy to use features, and they've got noise removal, so that's really awesome. Audacity is really, really cool. All right. So let's get into formative assessments. When your students or whoever is engaging with this video, you want to make sure that they're actually understanding the content, and so it's formative assessments, I think that might be a little bit more helpful for that. So Nearpod has online interactive quizzes. As you can see by these delightful little kids, it's made for delightful little kids, but a lot of us are working with adults. So I use their gamification as inspiration. Full disclosure, Nearpod, Poll Everywhere, I kind of hate these two, but a lot of people love them. Does anybody in here use Poll Everywhere? A lot of people would say me asking this is an example of why Poll Everywhere can be used, but I say, look how easy it was for me to just ask y'all without having to go to this whole other website. So I don't like Poll Everywhere. There are other librarians that I work with that love Poll Everywhere, and they love Nearpod. Full disclosure, I got ideas from them, and then for gamification this year, I went with a Jeopardy game at the end of this, and they loved it. We played Jeopardy with legal research. We turned it into a competition with prizes, and the students really liked it. So sometimes older is better. You don't have to use all this new technology. But Nearpod and Poll Everywhere, I think, are great for inspiration. Okay, so accessibility. ANDI is ANDI is an extension, bookmark extension you could use, and it basically tests your website for accessibility and tells you where there might be some issues. It's really easy to use. It's just right there. You click the button and it loads up. You could use it for any of the materials that you have, any type of site where students have to access your materials. You want to make sure that it's actually meeting accessibility. There's also audio transcription and subtitles available through HappyScribe if you don't have Echo 360 or something to automatically transcribe it for you. They also have video accessibility testing available through HappyScribe. All right, so hosting. We use YouTube as a backup. We also have it on Blackboard, we also have it on Google Drive, and we also have it on Echo 360 and on multiple devices. I don't know why we store it in a million places. Maybe we're worried about digital anarchy or something like that. But we store it everywhere so that we'll always have access to it. There's also analytics available off of YouTube if you want to share that link with students. And YouTube it's the most integrated with all of these sites. So if you ever have to, export clips to different places, sometimes you could just easily embed a YouTube clip. So that's why it's nice to host your videos on YouTube as well. Then we also host shorter clips of longer videos on LibGuides, which is a great way to get people over to use your LibGuides. Force them to go, as Mike says, sometimes that's the only way. You gotta actually force them. So we force them to go to our LibGuides and watch some videos. So I know a lot of you might have access to that. I wanna touch on TikTok and Instagram Reels before I stop because they are great for editing. I know they can be clunky. It took me a while to learn TikTok editing, but now I can embed TikTok videos into my presentations and also share the TikTok videos as well. So you can set up a private account just for yourself so you can easily download the videos and have them be easily shareable. All right, so here's some examples. Like I said, a lot of times our students are running to YouTube to learn legal research and learn about law school and legal education. Legal Eagle on YouTube is awesome. Has anybody ever heard of this guy? He's got pop culture commentary. He uses his editing is great, and he uses whiteboards sometimes to explain substantive content. And sometimes we may sort of like balk at this as educators and professionals, but this guy's got almost 3 million subscribers. So a lot of people are learning the law through Legal Eagle, including our students and audiences. There's also this girl named Linnea who's actually from Canada. She's just a girl, but she's teaching people how to do legal research, which is our job. And she's got 27,000 subscribers, and a lot of people watched her little video on how to do legal research, and they said, nobody explained this to me in law school. And we're like, what? Because she's saying the same thing we're all saying. And just to go against everything, she uses like no features at all. It's just her talking to the camera. So that shows you if you're not scared to talk directly to people, it actually goes a long way for engagement. All right, just hardware and software. If you've got an iPad Pro or Wacom, great. If you got a stylus, that works with it even better. You can do almost everything that we've talked about today just from your iPad Pro or your Wacom. Download Procreate Pro and you're in there. That's the best app, I think, for iPad Pro. Headphones and microphones, some people are super snobby about it. They say you gotta spend a ton of money. I spent 20 bucks on mine. I've linked them there. They work great. I video game a lot, so I use them for gaming, and I also use them for producing these videos, so I've never gotten any complaints. Also, sometimes I just use the microphone on my Mac. They say never to do that. I've never gotten any complaints. So before you go running out and spending $150, test your own devices. They may work just fine. Sound booth is just a euphemism for my closet. Just go somewhere. Go somewhere really quiet. Stuff a blanket under the door. Make sure there's no sirens or anything like that. And remember your transcriptions and your captions. Here's how to get in touch with me. I'm willing to share any video I've ever made with you guys, and I hope that helped. Okay, so I guess now we'll take questions.
It's not a question, but it's just about the microphones. A friend of mine who's a musician and a real snob about it. He said use the phone on your use the mic on your phone.
That works too.
It says it's 9-10 solution.
It's also changed a lot. Like when I was first doing this, the Yeti was like demonstrably better than anything else, and now it's not. So use the mic on your phone, use it on your computer, use it on your whatever device you are that you're listening or talking on Zoom with. It should work.
Absolutely.
There.
This question's for Ashley. You had an image of the CFR on one of your slides,
Yes.
and underneath the books there was a QR code. Do you know what the? Oh, maybe you don't. I was just curious what the QR code goes to.
Is that from our library?
Yeah.
Oh, we have QR codes that sometimes go to law library surveys, like end of the year surveys. We put the QR codes on every desk. We put them on in the stacks just so people can quickly access the survey.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
All right, guy with Vague on his laptop, bio.
Yeah, that's it. Big Tan, that's the Midwest Academic.
This is how I call on students too.
Question, sort of each of you in your respective positions, what's your relationship to your IT departments? And do you find that these people are helpful or not helpful? And how can we be better helpful?
At Chicago Kent, which I was at before Harvard, we work like this, because there was like only a few of us at Harvard. It's huge, and so I don't have that same contact as I had there. They're very responsive, but there's a lot of them, so it's not that personal thing. So how to be helpful? Just keep answering my questions.
Yeah, a good question, and so I'm still getting to know the IT department at my new school because I've only been there for 5 months. But when I introduced myself, I said, look, I'm going to have a lot of wacky ideas. Just stick with me, and if I say something that's totally crazy, just level with me. And they've been very good about that in terms of almost right away being like, no, yeah, no. And so, really, I would say what they did really nicely was they provided a very full explanation of the limitations, not so much technologically, but administratively, right? Because law schools usually work in a much larger university, and there's always going to be things that you can and cannot do within both of those environments. So I thought that they were really nice. I can also speak, of course, to the Penn Law ITS people, and I can say this. I've been a technology lawyer for 16 years. I've worked at a publicly traded company, this technology company. I worked at a big law firm. I've never ever seen anything like this. Right? Exactly. Wow, it's awesome. Great music. Best people I've ever worked with. No offense to the Duke people. I don't know them well enough yet to say that, but I'm sure. But and they're amazing. And so what they always did was they were overly responsive, which I appreciated. And then they just would not stop until we solved the problem. And I love that. And I felt very, very strongly about that. I love that.
Yeah, same. We work really closely with them, and aside from just knowing the golden rule of if I'm having a problem, reboot first before forcing them to drop what they're doing. And also, with a lot of the new tools that I like, I have to test them first. So I think testing them and having a little bit of tech savvy before saying, we need this, expensive software, trying to find free options to do the same thing, or just even knowing what we already have available. I think that sort of improves the relationship a lot.
Great question.
Here, because we have
We have 2 questions from online.
Okay.
For Debbie, I recall that there are some privacy concerns with Enroll Me. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, I've used it in my personal Gmail, so yeah. So some of the things that I described, there are privacy concerns. So I mentioned with the Alexa. So one of the things you want to do when you're using any of the tools is to consider that. It was an example of something, but other tools may be better. And I think we'll also see those tools more integrated in the actual products that we use in Gmail and in Outlook as we go forward. So I'm aware, but it's limited, so.
Thank you. And then Ashley, what program did you use for your presentation?
That's a great question, and I didn't even really say it because, we had to talk so much so fast. But I always start off with screen recording using QuickTime Player. I use Canva Video to create the presentation. I don't use their audio just because I prefer to edit in iMovie so I can add in any other graphics. So a mix of QuickTime Player, Canva Video, and iMovie is what I use. And sometimes I'll go in and I'll add like a fun little TikTok or something or a reel or, but mostly those are the 3 that I use the most.
Okay, I think there's a question here in the middle.
Yeah, how do you remember to turn pause off?
Boomerang, you could set it to do a particular time. So that's one way. Another way is, there've been if you remember when we were having all that trouble with if you are an Outlook user, you're having trouble with Outlook. For a while, I'm just like, gosh, I'm just not getting any email. It's kind of nice, but yeah. Or you you can also put in your calendar, turn pause off at this time.
So this is sort of funny, but I only just realized that photo of the CFR is my photo.
I thought that was our
It's a
photo.
Creative Commons photo that I took ages ago. So ages ago, when things first moved online, we put QR codes in the stacks and you could point your phone, but no one ever used it and they always went bad, so we took most of them down. So that's what the QR code is. I'm sure it's
Oh my
mine.
goodness, I pulled
I
that
kept
from
staring at
our
it going, that's my
presentation.
library. No, it's all over the internet. It's on the Federal Register's like real gov.gov.
Oh, goodness, we have been using that as our picture picture in our so I pulled that from our presentation
No
library.
problem. It's a Creative Commons credit that I
It's Carolyn and all other people.
I
This
kept
is
staring
Kelly.
at it going, that looks really familiar. And I was like, wait, I took that photo.
That is hilarious. Well,
It used to go to the online, when things
I'm
first
just gonna
went
say,
online,
I'm
we
a former
put
copyright attorney and I
we
see
put
a
QR
problem.
codes.
I'm available later.
I'm so sorry. You
No,
know,
it's a Creative Commons photo. I put it up and I put like notes. I was like, use the photos. I don't care.
well, lucky for me, I can pass off fault because
Yeah.
that was an older presentation, and I can totally look at the other folks and say, "See, this is why it's up to me now to change
It's
everything."
funny, we used to do QR codes before they became really common, and we put them up when things first moved online. We would like put them up, and then you supposedly could point your phone and be like, I will just go to the online version, but no one ever really used it.
Our QR codes have been working really well. It's the only
Yeah.
way we get them to take
People
our
use them
survey.
more now, so maybe we should try it
Now it
again.
works within your
It's clearly
picture
very
app. and you
It
run
used to be
it.
harder to show, yeah.
All right, it's 10:30 or 11:30, 10:30 Central. So I know people want to move on, but keep asking us questions or move on.
Yeah, we're good.
Speaking of QR codes, we're posting some restaurant recommendations. The CDs posted around if you wanted to scan them, do a Google Doc.